Hi, how did you manage? I hope you've gone through this exercise by yourself. I know you've already used some of these techniques before, but guess what? The more you practice, the better you'll get. My goal is to get you to a point where you no longer think about what needs to be done. Instead, you straight up do it. No hesitation. So don't think my imagination isn't great. I'm purposely making you repeat some techniques. I left you with a question. What would be the ideal way of solving it? Well, you can do it in several ways. Here, I'll show you my approach. First, we can focus 90% of the time on the Layers panel and rarely touch the canvas to solve the first couple of tasks. That's because we can rely on the filter system to do all the heavy lifting for us. This is the easiest way of doing it, and I recommend you use this method on your first go. The initial task is to rename them based on their type. Let's do that now by starting with Smart Objects. The filter for that is the last icon. In case you forgot their symbols, just hover over them and here you'll see it says Filter for Smart Objects. With this active, we immediately see all the layers that meet that criteria. Now we can get to work. We can double-click the first one and we'll call it Smart Object Space. Now we're going to copy that title so we can then easily paste it on all the other ones. Of course, we need to put in that 1 for our first smart object. But as you can see, now we can use Ctrl-V to paste, and all we have to do is put a number at the end of it. There are 9 smart objects, by the way, just in case you were wondering. This is a good way of practicing your keyboard skills. I hope you look like one of those highly skilled piano players that have been practicing since they were 3 years old. That would bring me the most joy. There are 9 layers of each type. Smart objects, which we covered, shape layers, text layers, and finally rasterized layers. All of them can be identified and sorted by using the same method. You rely on Photoshop's filter to do all the work. In most cases, you'll have to look at their thumbnails and recognize them by their symbols, but here I want to show you the fastest way. Okay, I've sorted all the layer types, and now we can continue. The next task is very easy as well if we use the same filter. All we have to do is select the first one, then use Shift and click on the other end. This is how we get them all. Now press Ctrl-G to group them. Repeat the process by filtering them one by one. The less effective but more rewarding method is to use Ctrl and Shift and select each layer as you find it in the Layers panel. I didn't want to be cruel, so I didn't include 200 layers, but in general you should try an assortment of techniques to make sure you fully understand each hotkey. It's easy to use the Auto Select feature, but this might cause you to work with only one hand. By this, I mean the easiest way is not always the best way for a beginner or intermediate user. So from time to time, try the harder way so that you can test yourself. Okay, once you're done, you can close the filter by pressing the small red button, and now you have to rename each folder. Open each group and see what type of layer it contains. Label it accordingly and move to the next one. Not a problem since there's only a few layer types in Photoshop. Now I need to separate all these layers on the canvas. 4 layer types means 4 columns. The basic way of doing it is to select them one by one with the Ctrl-Click technique and move them into a column format. This is time-consuming, so it's not optimal, but for learning purposes it's just fine. The easiest way of doing it is to use the alignment tools from up top, so I can select all the layers inside a group and left-align them. Looking good. Now I can place them anywhere on my canvas, and I can also distribute their vertical centers so I get more space between them. This needs to be repeated for all the other layer types. This is another underused technique, mostly because a lot of Photoshop users don't know about these tools. I love them because they're efficient and they provide pixel-perfect accuracy. As you can see, these tasks are not hard to pull off, but I can promise you a lot of students are going to skip over these exercises. I know you can understand everything that's going on by lounging back on your couch and watching this on a big screen TV, but believe me, it's one thing to watch and it's another to work. Okay, so we've renamed them, we've grouped them, and we've also separated them on the canvas. Now it's time to sort them again based on their color. For this step, it's important we have our background layer completely locked. Make sure you have this lock icon next to it and not any other symbol. If not, select it and click on this small icon. Okay, you'll notice some of these shapes are very small. This is just one of them. To easily select them, we'll have to either zoom in really close and use the Ctrl-Click technique, or better yet, click and drag. We've done this before, but in case you didn't get it on the first go, let me explain it again. With the background locked, while on the Move tool, I can drag and get it with ease. Everything that's inside this rectangle will be selected. Of course, we don't want any extra layers, so we'll use the following approach. After we select one, we'll hold down Ctrl and Shift so we can get another one. This requires dexterity, but once you get it, you'll be flying. So again, with your eyes on the Layers panel, once you select the first layer, you need to hold both the Ctrl and Shift keys so you can click and drag to select another one. Then use the same Ctrl-G hotkey to group them. It's up to you if you want to rename them now or at the end. It would be a bit better to do it now because you can see the colours, but for the sake of your flow, you can continue with this click-drag technique until you finish up. This is going to take time, but that's how you increase your skills. Let me zoom through these steps since it's not going to do you much good if you see the same action repeated 20 times. Okay, so that's the essence of this exercise. Like I said, if you don't choose the proper techniques, it's one of the most difficult ones because of the amount of manual labour involved. But remember, we initially sorted them with the filters from the top of the Layers panel. Now, I strongly encourage you to take them one by one from the canvas with the Control-Click technique. If you work this way, you can separate them by their type and put them into columns at the same time, so there is an advantage in working like that. That means you have to repeat this exercise by doing it the hard way. Do that and you'll see the benefits later down the road. In the end, this is what your project should look like. Please try and do it at least one more time the other way.